Thank you very much for having me. Greetings, solidarity from Occupy Wall Street. This is my first time in London, and this is a very, very first stop to make right off the plane. It's been a very inspiring day. Thank you. So the last 2 months, on Thursday, we celebrated the 2-month birthday of Occupy Wall Street, and I would say that the past 2 months has done more for the confidence and combativity of the working class than the past 2 decades have in the United States. What started as a movement on September 17th of a couple hundred people, I was there the first day, hoping, praying that it would last more than a week. In the back of my head, I didn't think it was going to, and I'm very glad that I was wrong. For many people who've experienced, people have spoken about this, have experienced many struggles in their life. I know that I'm young, but have always ended in defeat, have only lasted a couple weeks, if not a couple days, are experiencing something now that will never be shaken from them. For my generation, movements of such scale that I'm witnessing in the United States, where literally hundreds of cities have been occupied in places I didn't actually know existed in the United States. These are something that my generation has only read about in history books, heard about in other countries. For the past year, we've witnessed massive uprisings throughout the Middle East, throughout Europe, and taking great inspiration. But again and again, it's always been the question in my country is that, will it ever happen here? Can it ever happen here? And for my history as an activist, that's been the question that's plagued our movement. It's just a sense that it could never happen in the United States. The past 2 months has transformed everyone that has taken part in it. You cannot turn on the evening news without a discussion about class, without a discussion about the 99%, without a discussion about Wall Street and the banks, and having the media attempt to explain why so many people, why 72% of New Yorkers support Occupy Wall Street. They're forced to have to explain this to the masses of people that are watching every night. Everyone is talking about Occupy Wall Street over dinner, in their workplaces, on the streets. This has never happened in my lifetime, where there's a common language. It's given our class a voice. The democracy that's sort of inherent in the Occupy movement has meant that anyone can come down to Occupy Wall Street and feel like they had a voice. People who have never felt like they've had a voice in their entire life coming down and being able to do mic checks, the people's mics, speaking about their experience and knowing that there's an audience of people there listening. I think the slogan was quite simple, right? We are the 99%, and I think that it seems so simple yet connected and caught on so fast, and I think it's broken people out of a real serious sense of isolation and alienation that has divided our movement for far too long. So the idea of we are the 99% and they are the 1% has both sort of provided a sense of unity amongst people, a sense of solidarity amongst people, and it's also provided a target, Wall Street. The 1%, the people who rule the world, people who have never given us a shot at a decent life. And it's united people against a common target. And I think that it's helped tremendously in sort of giving our movement, some direction. We got a lot of criticisms about not having a clear target or a clear demand. And I think if you talk to anyone down there, they had some demands, certainly. That they wanted from this movement. I'm part of the labor committee of Occupy Wall Street. I'm a member of the teachers union. And we started the labor committee of Occupy Wall Street initially to sort of provide material support for the occupiers who were sleeping there every night. There are a number of union headquarters that are downtown Manhattan, who provided anything from sleeping bags to tents to money to food to storage space to meeting space. So the labor committee sort of began as a place to kind of provide material support to the occupation, but it transformed quite quickly to having a very different impact, which is sort of using the inspiration of the Occupy movement to transform labor battles in the city. We set up a union table down at Occupy Wall Street where rank and file members staffed all day long. Occupy Wall Street was like the encampment itself became sort of the entry point for thousands of working class New Yorkers to come and get organized, many for the first time. Many came who were on their protest for the first time. So we set up a union table to build the labor committee and started holding weekly meetings of 50 people representing dozens of different unions. Most people have never sat in the same room together. The kind of networking that's happening at this conference today is something we're trying to recreate on the labor committee of Occupy Wall Street. And our goal is to bring the Occupy movement into the workplace, to bring the Occupy movement into our schools, and to bring the Occupy movement into our communities. Since the very beginning, the 1% and the police forces that serve and protect them have done everything possible to get rid of us. We are literally an eyesore for bankers on their way to work. We're a black eye to the 1% who have ruled without any kind of real resistance for quite some time. So their first attempt through the media, right, is to discredit us, to make us feel that this is just a bunch of dirty hippies down at Wall Street who don't have anything to say for the thousands of working class New Yorkers, and that they were proven quite wrong quite quickly. And once over 70% of people began to support Occupy Wall Street, they had to come up with a different tactic. And unfortunately, that's meant massive police brutality onto the encampment itself and those who support it. People may have heard of Bloomberg, our mayor's original attempt to clean up Wall Street. If anyone's been to New York, the hypocrisy is just outrageous that our mayor would care about the health and safety of New Yorkers. So what we organized was a people's cleanup, where janitors' unions donated cleaning equipment, where occupiers began cleaning up our own encampment and letting the mayor know that we didn't need them. The AFL-CIO sent out 2 action alerts to go and support and defend the encampment from police repression, and at 5 in the morning I was in the park with 5,000 other students, unemployed, and union members, and we're strong enough and encircled the park with enough numbers where the mayor was forced to back down. So the police repression initially had only served to embolden the occupation movement. People may have heard in Oakland, California, as they attempted to evict that occupation, thousands gathered after the police actually critically injured an Iraq War veteran. And that occupation, instead of backing down, organized a General Assembly of thousands that voted for a general strike in Oakland. Never in my life have I sort of witnessed an actual attempt at a general strike with real legs, and what that ended up meaning is that 15,000 occupiers and activists marched to the port of Oakland to shut that port down. And I'll end with this. I think that people may have heard that our occupation was evicted. It's unrecognizable if you go down to Zuccotti Park. It's crystal clean, they have their lights, they have their nice trees. It's perfect for any tourist that wants to go there now. And they think what our new slogan is, they did evict us, and I think that they want a short-term victory against the occupation movement. But 2 days later, we came back with a slogan, which is that you can't evict an idea whose time has come. And I think for a lot of people in my country, people are feeling that they've come far too long without a real fight back. And so 2 days later, after the eviction, 35,000 people marched in New York City to defend the movement. Thousands tried to stop the New York Stock Exchange from opening. Bankers were given a special number to figure out how to get to work if they were confronted with an occupation. There were subway occupations leading down to Foley Square from all the poor and working class communities throughout New York City, and we converged in Foley Square, where we were too big to even fit, and marched over the Brooklyn Bridge together. There are big questions facing our movement, and I promise I'll end here. But there are real questions facing our movement that we'll have to confront. What will a movement look like without a physical encampment? How do we take on police repression? How can we get labor back on board to actually defend or reoccupy the park? And how do we expand the movement, deepen the movement into the schools and workplace? And I think our next step has to be to escalate, and it's been incredibly inspiring to be here, because you guys are organizing for a general strike, and I think a general strike in the United States is a long time coming, so thank you.